We have a new distinguished group of panelists. Kathy, thank you so much for staying over for the second panel. To continue our conversation about building a human capital pipeline in Louisiana, who will lead our schools so students succeed. The focus of our second panel discussion relates to what do schools need in terms of teachers, leaders, and staff to respond to the needs of students in preparing for the 21st century. We have panelists that have both business, entrepreneurial backgrounds. We also have panelists who work in the nonprofit setting, but all of them are experts and have experience in education and leader development. What I'd like to do is allow them the opportunity to introduce themselves, the organization they represent, and talk a little bit about what they do, and then we'll begin with question and answer period. We'll begin with Janet.
Thank you very much. I don't know exactly how to describe what I do. I'm a person with that portfolio in many ways. I was trained as an English teacher, but actually my professional career was working in a family business with bottom line responsibilities as a president, vice president, and very closely connected with human resources. So I can deeply relate to the need for developing human capital. I worked in a capital-intensive business, but even in that venue, the human capital was the most important part of our business. So that gives you a little bit of my background professionally. Currently, I sit on the board of the Choice Foundation, which operates Lafayette Charter School, and starting this year we have taken on Esperanza's charter, so I can address some of the questions you had earlier about the role of the charter board and its alignment with results of your school. I'm also on the board of an independent school, Trinity Episcopal School. So I bring a knowledge of how things are done in the independent school arena, and I think there are some similarities with what you have in terms of working with charters and with what I would define as 21st century schools. I hope my definition is correct, but I assumed in my own mind that 21st century schools are flatter. They are not, it's not a top-down, you do it this way, take orders, whether it's a traditional school or whether it's a charter, which I'm more familiar with charters. I believe that 21st century schools have to be more nimble and responsive to the individual needs of the students. So I'll be happy to answer questions in that area. I also will, if you want me to, give you some nuggets of do's and don'ts that I learned as being in human resources. And since I have Citizens for One as the byline under my name, I hope you don't mind, but Citizens for One Greater New Orleans is a group, it's an advocacy group that was formed after Katrina. Some of you may know about us. We first of all took on levee board reform because water knows no boundary, and we were successful in advocating before the state legislature on consolidating levee boards and having competency-based members of the levee board. We took on consolidation of assessors in Orleans Parish from 7, which came from the 19th century. We're talking about the 21st century now, but that was a 19th century methodology here in the city to one, and I now chair the Education Committee, have for the last 2 years, of Citizens for One Greater New Orleans, and I sit on the Executive Committee. So I have testified before Bessie and before the state legislature in support of the reforms that I believe are transforming our schools. So I'd like to talk to you about that if anyone has questions. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kathy O'Neill, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to be here. I think the world of AIE and the work it does. I started in this business back when the earth was cooling as a chemistry teacher, and I've been through just about every level there is. I left the superintendency to go to the university as an associate professor in ed leadership, and left that to come to SREB, which is a wonderful organization that represents 16 southern states. Our board is made up of 16 governors and their appointees. It's about 60 years old, and our mission is to impact the economy of the South through education. And we started with higher ed and have moved through to K-12 in the last 20 years. But the reason that I'm so excited about this is when I went to the university from a superintendency, I found that we didn't know how to talk to each other. There was not a common language. There was a real disconnect between what was happening in K-12 and what I was seeing at the university level. So when SREB offered this opportunity and the Wallace Foundation funded our research about 12 years ago now, it was a wonderful opportunity to begin that connection. How do we bring what the university has to the table and what K-12 knows is the reality of education to the table and make them work together? So the topic this morning is near and dear to my heart, especially since I see a real brain drain coming in the next 5 years from what we see as leadership in our southern states anyway. I do work in a lot of other states. We probably have a presence in about 40 states. So we have a very, very big national perspective on this issue, and I'm just very excited to be with you.
The first thing I asked was, what is 21st century education? And I think about Ed Begley Jr., of all folks. When he did a keynote in 2010 in Orlando, he said, we have to speak a language young people understand. And that language, he said, is technology. Then I started thinking about students being motivated to solve real-world problems. We have to think about how the students today are different. We call them digital natives, whereas people in my age group were digital aliens. But we think about the fact that they expressed a preference for doing instead of listening, and at the same time, most educators say that's the best way for them to learn. So it's really about authentic learning. It's about something that Ken Kay from P21S, which is a partnership for 21st Century Schools, said, indicates we must fuse the traditional 3 R's of education with the 4 C's: communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity. So I asked myself, can we meet that challenge? Can we meet it today? So when you think about historically back in the late 1840s, education was really all about ladies in the classroom. Many of them had not been educated. They were in the classroom and they were trying to teach kids, you know, the reading and the writing. They didn't have the formal education that was needed. It was really the horse and buggy age. And then you think about urban schools where, you know, the desks were bolted to the floor, you know, and you can't move them, can't do anything with them. And they dealt with age-graded kids, whereas in the rural communities, you know, you had a kid that could have been 4 or 5 and a kid that was 20 in the same classroom. So things have changed. When you fast forward and you think about just the last 2 decades, there's been a surge in public policy that tells us we got to do things differently. And it was mostly identified as something that was pointed towards low-income families. So now we're there. But are we still dealing with education the way we did in the 1840s? So we got to be mindful of those things. If you fast forward to post-K, Katrina, New Orleans, Louisiana, Southeast, whatever you want to call it, we've been now called the beta center for education. Okay, the world's looking at us. A group of business leaders went over to China. You know what the first question out of their mouths was? Tell us about the charter schools in New Orleans. Business leaders in China. Okay, so we've been tagged, you know, the beta center, ground zero. But the current dialogue does tell us that, guess what? By 2014, we may have all charter schools in Greater New Orleans. So we have to be mindful of those things. But the new landscape brings different challenges. We have to think about simple statistics such as in the mid-1970s, we had, there was a steadily aging of the teaching community. In 2005, 42% of the teachers were at age 50 or older, compared to 25% in 1996. And the distribution of the experience was pretty much in the same trend. In 2001, 38% of U.S. teachers had more than 20 years of experience. So the question for me is, do we need the same type of teacher and leadership in schools? And if not, where will the human capital come from? So I say what we need to do is prepare our students for 21st century learning in an entrepreneurial spirit in education, entrepreneurial school leaders, entrepreneurial teachers, entrepreneurial staff. We need folks, the adults in the room, who have command of those same 4 C's. With that, I'll go ahead and close my opening statement by saying 21st century students need the skills to create, analyze, and collaborate. There was a gentleman by the name of Charles Handy that once said, you have to stand outside the box to see how the box can be redesigned. Stand outside to see how it can be redesigned. To properly prepare the students for the 21st century, we need to shift our mindset. Everyone needs to value education. Everyone needs to return the profession of teaching to its prestigious perch it had when Miss Handy walked in the classroom in a suit back in when I was in 4th grade, and was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen because she was professional. We have to return the profession to its prestigious perch. We have to encourage competition. We have to reward performance and offer endless autonomy. And then we need to celebrate the extreme upside opportunities. Before we can choose our tools and techniques, we must choose our dreams and value. So as Christy said earlier, you go first. Thanks.
Thank you, Ronnie.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Candice Frazier. It is an honor for me to be here with you all today, and just so great to look out there and see so many faces that gave up this beautiful Saturday afternoon to come here and really engage more on how do we take the good work that's been done here in New Orleans and take it to the next level. Because as many people will say, the data shows that we've come a long way from the past, but we are nowhere where we need to be. A little bit about myself. I am the Senior Human Capital Director at New Schools for New Orleans, and what that means is that I engage a lot on how do we ensure that we as a city are getting the best teachers and leaders to our public school students. And that is happening through partnerships that we have with organizations like the New Teacher Projects, Teach NOLA, New Leaders for New Schools, strategic partnerships with Teach for America, and then also developing new initiatives to bring teachers and leaders to the city. But as anyone will tell you, it's not just about bringing them here, but we've got to figure out how do we continue to develop them and then therefore retain them for the city. Because we do have a lot of people coming in who are not natives, and we need to figure out how do we get them to be really invested in the city so they're here for the long term. I've been with New Schools for New Orleans for about 2.5 years. I came here from doing work with the New Teacher Project. I'd been with them for about 6 years. Immediately previously to coming to NSNO, I was in Memphis, where I had launched and implemented a program called Memphis Teaching Fellows, which was geared at bringing teachers into the Memphis City schools. And previous to that, through a consulting relationship, we were running Memphis City Schools Office of Recruitment. And previously to that, I was running a partnership that the New Teacher Project had with the Board of Regents to work with local universities to recruit and train local teachers. So that started at the University of Louisiana at Monroe. So really great to hear them in the first panel be put out there as a kind of a model for what's being done, not only in teacher recruitment and training, but now it looks like for leader training. So it's good to hear that. And going back to what I said at the beginning, like we know that our system prior to Katrina needed some work. And it's good to see that we are taking steps right now to change that. I mean, we can say that we have 45% of our students who are in public schools attending 45% less of our students are attending failing schools than prior to 2005, and that is a mark that we're doing something right here. But the only way we're going to be able to continue to do that work is if we're out there finding more teachers, more leaders who are committed to this, and who are not only just committed to stepping into those roles, but knowing that once you're in the role, that's not when the work stops, but you've got to continue developing yourself to meet the needs of our students in our city. And I think we're going to talk today about some of those ways that we can continue that development, so that, anyone who's in education knows that it's a lifelong endeavor, and that if you have to value constant learning to be able to do it right. And so I'm just excited to continue to engage in conversations about that this morning.
Excellent. We have a great panel. Ronnie, I'd like to begin with you. You are very active in the Jefferson Chamber, and you have worked in various capacities to create educational reform. How do we get the business community engaged and keep them engaged in creating the changes that we need to build the human capital pipeline that results in students who succeed? And how have you done it in your capacity with the Jefferson Chamber?
Well, just real briefly here, I was chairman of the chamber last year, but I was chairman of the Education Committee for 3 years running. I'm on JEDCO, Jefferson Economic Development Council's Task Force for Education, EDGE 2020. Instrumental in starting the second charter school in Jefferson Parish, the Jefferson Chamber Foundation Academy. We're the first organization to do such in the United States. So we have an academy that addresses overaged and undercredited 8th and 9th graders. Subject matter experts told us we were crazy, don't enter in high school, don't enter in high school with alternative kids, and we had 13 kids graduate February 17th, and the school opened last August. So we've got some early successes. But for the business community, it became about workforce, it became about economic development, the quality of life, being able to attract companies to the area. Because the first thing the top line supervisors, the mid-level managers are going to want is a quality education. We know that probably 6 years ago, 43% of the kids in Jefferson Parish went to private or parochial schools. That's now down to 34%. So there's some things being done right in public education. And I have to also connect with the migration to the North Shore has a little bit to do with that also. But for business to really, truly continue to grow, we've got to have a community focus. And that community focus tells us we have to be more engaged. Business were afraid to go into schools before. They were asked to come in on career days, bring some goodies, maybe supply a speaker or something every now and then, but that was it. But by us standing on the sideline, what we did was create an opportunity and a window for things to kind of go a little bit unchecked. Okay, so now business in Jefferson Parish is truly engaged. Don't throw any stones, but I was also instrumental in starting the group that we got 5 new school board members elected. So we went on the school board reform, thought we'd get 3 out of the 5 candidates we had, and we got all 5. So not only us as a stakeholder, I think we connected with the parent group. So for us, it's about everybody being involved, but you got to change the way education is being delivered to the students. It's not the memorization, it's not the recitation, it's not all of the, you know, you guys call it rope and dope or something, on the chalk and talk and things of that nature. I'm sorry, I'm not in education. But
drill and kill.
Drill and kill, thank you. Drill and kill. So it's not about drill and kill. It's about real world problems. It's about role plays. It's about things that kids are interested, especially connecting curriculum to technology. And that's where it came from us, because we know that I can't keep the same computers for 10 years. Okay, I'm lost, so I got to change. I got to change rapidly, and I think what we bring to the table is the spirit, the entrepreneurial spirit, which has to be out there. But what we also bring to the table is the knowledge that comes from, and I think you said it earlier. It's not about academics. The difference between academics or Christie academics and industry, they're both the same. It's got to be run like a business.